F1 seemingly has a new rivalry, and one that's come out of pretty much nowhere. A Dutch versus a Brit, Mercedes versus Red Bull, George Russell versus Max Verstappen. Oh, you thought I was going to say Hamilton v Verstappen, didn't you?
And we have got 3.2 miles of racing action all the way to the checkered flag.
I'll stop it right there before this gets out of hand. It all started during Grand Prix qualifying, when George and Max was on their cooldown laps. George could see Max in front, but decided not to slow down and stay quite fast on his cooldown lap and coast up to the back of the Red Bull. In the post-quali interview, George would seemingly shrug it off and joke about it, not mentioning a penalty. Max didn't expect to get one, but the FIA would slam him with a massive, staggering, quite impressive one-place grid drop, from pole to second. We know what then happened. Max would take the lead into turn 1, never lose it, and win his 63rd career Grand Prix. But it would be after the race where the whole world would hear the team gossip on what happened the night before. It's giving EastEnders on a Tuesday night. Max Verstappen would say, speaking on the visit to the stewards and the grid penalty itself to Viaplay, but also how it got handled by the other party. The other driver in question during the steward meeting, it made no sense. I think I have a lot of respect for a lot of drivers, but after last night I totally lost it for him. I thought it was absurd how Russell tried to give me a penalty, like that scenario. I was quite pissed about it to him. In front of the camera he was very reasonable, but outside he's a completely different person. I can't stand that. Vinny better F off. I don't want anything to do with that. Verstappen, the newly crowned 4-time champion, just called out another driver live on air. How pissed do you have to be? He's never called out Hamilton during their Titanic 2021 title fight, Charles for Silverstone or Jeddah, just for example, or Lando at all. Yet something clicked when George enters. Max also went into the official F1 post-race press conference and said, "I've been in the meeting room many times, and I've never seen someone screw someone over that hard, and for me, I lost all respect." An F1 photographer went to Instagram, reposted the quote and stated, "Actually, as a behind-the-scenes guy, I tend to agree with Max's opinion." The BBC would then quote in their report, Verstappen, who went on to win the race while Russell finished 4th, is said to have discussed his feelings with the Briton before the race. The timings of media interviews after the race on Sunday meant Russell was not asked about the incident. However, sources close to the Mercedes driver suggested there was more of the story yet to come out. He is likely to be asked about it on Thursday, the media day before the season-closing race in Abu Dhabi. Verstappen also stated in the press conference, "I just try to be nice, so maybe I shouldn't be nice. It's the end of the season, everything is more or less decided, especially for me, so I didn't want to screw anyone over. I was trying to explain to everyone, but it was like talking to a brick wall." Ted Kravitz would say this in his post-race notebook episode.
The rumour is, and I think you'll find this when Drive to Survive airs in February, because they're certainly not going to leave this little snippet on the editing room floor, that on the drivers' parade holding room, Max then confronted George, still seething, as we've said, uses that anger as motivation for his one-place grid drop, and said something along the lines of, "You and your FIA mates, I hope you're happy with what you've done," or your FIA buddies. I think the actual quote was rather ruder than that, but I'm not going to say what it was. But that seems to be the confrontation that Christian Horner referred to.
The funniest bit to me anyway is that according to Tom Christensen, Max told George he was getting past in turn 1 and he executed it perfectly. He was either getting P1 or not making it out the corner at all. This situation has actually brought Mercedes and Lewis fans who despise Verstappen after 2021, and even in general, to agree with the Dutchman and say it has been coming. Along with Hamilton, Max is the most outspoken driver on the grid, and he says it how it is. How badly do you have to come across, or how much do you have to change behind the scenes, for a driver of his calibre to say something as public? Has this been brewing since Baku Sprint in 2023? Or as George has become the head of the GPDA, finally getting a major say in situations like the Fernando Alonso penalty in Australia earlier this year, which are still fine on the harsher side of pens, or has Max had the final straw and fully lost respect to a driver that could potentially be his title rival in the next few years?